Thank you for joining me for another episode of Think Your Way to an Epic Life. And today's episode is designed to be more than just a conversation, it's kind of a mini class. If you will give yourself these next few minutes and fully be here and without distractions, you will walk away with a proven framework that can change the way that you approach your life and your work. Today, I'm joined by Trunnis Goggins, the second, entrepreneur, speaker, Navy veteran, and the creator of the 4P's of You. And his book and message have already helped people all around the world step into a life that's filled with purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. And by the end of this episode, you'll know how to apply those 4P's to your own life in a way that ripples out. Guys, not just you. It's not just going to impact you. It's going to positively impact your family, your friends, your team. So let's just dive in. Trueness, what sparked the 4P's of You?
Thank you for having me on the program. I really appreciate this. What really sparked the 4Ps was a very, very dark time in my life. It was an extremely dark time. I was just about 4 years away, removed from losing my daughter to a homicide. I was in a marriage because I lost my daughter in a homicide. It was not a, it was a daughter from a previous marriage, and she had a son, and I was making unilateral decisions with her son, my grandson. So I was making decisions outside of the marriage to save my grandson. So that caused issues, and I didn't like the path that I was taking with my job. I was living someone else's purpose. And what ended up happening was, I mean, I got up every morning and I felt like, oh my gosh, man, this is what I worked hard for all my life. This is what I did. And one day I sat there and said, okay, either I can do this from now until I die, or I can take the back nine of my life. I was 48 at the time, and have at least get some enjoyment out of whatever I can. And I decided on the latter. And the first thing I had to think about was, what am I actually here for? And it wasn't who am I? I already knew who I was. But what am I here for? What am I here to do? What is my purpose? And when I did that, when I decided what my purpose was, and it took a lot of, let me think about this, let me do this, let me do that. And then after I did that, it's like, okay, so how am I going to live my purpose in the best way? I have to plan, you know? And the other thing, passion. Remember, I just told you I had a good life, had a great house, had all this good stuff. I had no passion for what I was doing. None. So I had to find that passion. And in everything, realistically speaking, life does at times suck. We all know that, and you have to be persistent, because things are going to go on your things way beyond your control are going to get in your way. So even things you sometimes we even put things in our way, and you have to be persistent to go through it. And that's where the 4Ps came.
Wow, that is usually where our best, our I don't even know what it's called, magnus opus,
Yes,
like your big
yes,
thing usually comes from the deepest, darkest pain.
hmm
And so
absolutely.
speak to someone who is in that deep, dark pain right now and is just so close to done. How can your book help them?
Sometimes we're so close to done because we are holding on to something. Sometimes we are so close to done is because we're holding on to something. We know that we have a security blanket, and that security blanket is not giving us any security at all. Okay. When I did all this when I was 48 years old, this is usually a time when people are thinking about their 401ks. They're thinking about, oh my gosh, I got what, 15 years until I retire. Let me ride this out. Right. I got rid of everything at 48. Everything, the house, the 401k, everything. I got rid of everything. I was living in a two-bedroom apartment. I was living in the same apartment complex where my daughter lived. My oldest living daughter. She was living in an apartment complex, and I was living in a complex right down the street from her. I mean, I literally started over again. So for somebody in that dark spot, sometimes you really do need to let go of whatever it is. And it could be something small, okay? It could be something extremely large. If you're miserable, if you are dark, if things are dark, you have to let go. If it is something that you are doing, it could be a behavior, it could be a habit, it could be something, and you are dark because of that. Let it go. Because if you let go of it, the stuff that you really want can get fit in that hand. You can't walk around with your hands are full. Mhm.
How do you let go?
Oh my gosh, that is the hardest thing in the world to do because we get used to it's funny, we get used to our circumstance. We get used to what we're holding on to. And the worst thing about it is we get used to our pain. We really do. We get used to it, we embrace it, we love it, and it's just beating us up every single day. One time I was sitting there talking to somebody and we were going back and forth. I said, you know what? The the only way to catch a break is if you have empty hands. So you can't catch a break if your hands are full. You can't catch a break if your hands are full. And so what you're going to have to do is whatever it is, you're going to have to let go. And it's going to hurt. You're going to cry. You're going to cry. I let go of a house that I literally bought. I got out of the Navy and bought my first house when I was 33 something. No, well, 30 something years old. Bought my first house out of the Navy. And I loved that house. It was a beautiful house. I remember I used to go outside every weekend and manicure the lawn. It was the American dream. And I remember that I loved that house so much and I walked away from it. I walked away from it, let my ex-wife have it. We eventually sold the house and split a little bit of the equity and whatever. But yeah, it was painful. And it's funny that whenever I go to Indianapolis, I live in Asheville, North Carolina now. Whenever I go to Indianapolis, I hope people don't think I'm creeping because I'll drive past the house and just look at it a little bit. I'm like, hey man, let me just drive back the old neighborhood and see what it looks like. See if oh, they're kind of messing that up. That shouldn't look like that. Really, it's not my house anymore. But that's what happens. But you do have to let go. And I'm not saying it's the easiest thing to do, but you have to do it.
You absolutely, guys. I could not agree more. And I've heard it basically like you're holding a tennis ball and you're holding it so tight. And that is the pain and that is the yuck. And you're holding it on so tight. And even if you can't let it go, like you just like, I cannot let it go, maybe just kind of loosen your grip. That make that be your first step. Just kind of loosen your grip on that tennis ball. And then eventually let it drop because literally if you're holding on to and you can't take on more if you're still holding on to the yuckiness of the past. Let me ask you this, Trunnis, when was the moment, or was there even a moment where you realized that this framework that you created out of your deepest pain was changing lives?
I realized number one, I realized it changed my life and I wanted to share it. Okay. And then I used to talk to people about it. Obviously you just kind of, this is, what, wow, man, you're so much happier now. You're so much more lively. You know what I mean? And I started talking to people about it. And then one day I was at I still do, I teach inmates at prisons throughout the country. And I went to a prison and I was teaching them. And I said, all right, guys, what are you going to do when you get out of prison? Right. And 15 guys, some of them were in prison for over 2 decades. Okay. They were 6 months from getting out of prison because when I teach, I always teach at that 6 month mark. I don't do this anymore. I used to teach how to make a resume, how to network, and all that other stuff. So now I teach them how to strategically plan their life because what happened in that classroom, I said, what do you want? And they said, "Oh man, I'm going to go to Chick-fil-A. I can't wait to see my girlfriend. I can't wait to basically all the stuff, I can't wait for this, can't wait for that. Just stuff that, we can't wait for when we go home, right?" And I said, "No, that's not what I'm asking." Now remember, there's 15 guys in here. A lot of them had a lot of time to think about what they were going to do when they got out of prison. A lot of time, right? And I said, "No, that's not what I'm asking." I said, "What are you going to do to make sure that you are never in this building or any building that looks like this again?" Okay. And when I said that, seriously, I can hear a pin drop.
Oh, sure.
They didn't
That's
know.
that's their homeostasis. That's where they're
Absolutely.
comfortable.
Absolutely. They had no idea. I said, "You're not coming back here. How are we going to get you not to come back here?" They didn't want to come back here, there. And so I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna have to bring detail. We're gonna have to refine. We're gonna have to plan. You're gonna have to plan your life. You've never done this before. And I'm gonna tell you right now, at all 15 of them, they all said we've never done this before. And I'm so happy that we're doing this. Out of all those 15 guys, I do keep track of them. None of them ever went back to prison.
Right
Now
on.
remember, this was I started writing this book back in 22, so it's 25 now. So yeah, none of them's gone back. We're good for that so far. And as a matter of fact, I have another book series called Stories of, and in my Stories of books, one of those former inmates is now contributing to one of my Stories of books. It's the most awesome thing. But anyway, um, what I ended up doing was when I left the prison that day, I was stunned that, how can you sit there for all this time, have all this time to think about life, all of this time? And that's what you're there for. You're there to sit there, go sit in the corner right now and just think about what you just did, right? And that's what you're doing. But you're doing this not for like 15 minutes, like a little 5-year-old. You're doing this for 15 years. Okay. And you still don't know what you did or how you're going to not get back and do it again. So I was stunned, and I was like, you know what, Trunnis, though, if you drive, I was in Columbus, Indiana at the time, and I was staying at a hotel. If you drive through Columbus, Indiana right now, you go stop through downtown Columbus right now and ask anybody the same question: What are you going to do? What is your life like? What do you want out of life? The ones that will answer you, because you're not, if you randomly talk to somebody downtown and ask them that question, they're probably going to walk away from you. But the ones that would answer you would probably have the same response as those prisoners. We always have that same response, because we go through life on cruise control. We do what we're supposed to do. All of us do that. We go through life and we're not intentional with what we do. Mom and dad told us that you have to go to college. Mom and dad, I'll never forget, my dad says you have three things that you can do. Okay. When I was 18 years old, you have three things. You can either get a job, go to college, or you can join the military. But you can't stay here. Okay. 18 years old. You got three things that you can do. At the time, I went and got a job and went to college, but I did, and then eventually I joined the military. But that's what we're told, and we just go ahead and do this. You have to go to college. I know all these parents now, especially these seniors now, it's now the school season. So what's happening? Parents are telling their children right now, did you enroll, I'm sorry, did you apply to this college? How many colleges did you apply to today? And the thing is they're doing it, they're quantifying it, they're not qualifying it. So they just sit there and say, okay, I applied to 15 colleges today. You have no idea why you applied to those colleges. There's no intent. The only reason why you're doing that is because you want to shut mom and dad up. Okay. Then you have the situation when you get older. You now graduate college and now you have to get a job. So you get a job at the major that you want. You probably didn't want that major, whatever, and then you have somebody saying, hey, what do you want? And you've never asked yourself what you want because someone's always told you what you needed. And so now you live life and you're probably 35, 40 years old and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to leave my wife or husband. I want to leave this house. I want to jump in front of a bus if I had one available. I mean, I'm done. And then you have the depression and you have all these other things. You have those midlife crises and all these other things. This book is here to avoid that. And so when I wrote this book, I said, hey, listen, you know what? I want you to read this book. I don't care what part of life you are in. If you have to start over, you can. If you have to gradually make those changes to go where you are, you can. And that's how the book started. And that's the success behind the book. One of the things I do love about the book is I have people sending me messages through Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram saying, hey, I bought your book. I mean, all over the world. Hey, I bought your book and I'm so glad I'm reading this book right now. It changed my life, and and I think that is probably one of the greatest things in the world, to receive messages like that.
No, no question. I mean, it's got to be so fulfilling that it's not that it takes away the pain of what you went through. However, to have some purpose behind it and that you're making a difference, not in just the people who are contacting you,
Mhm.
in all the people that they interact with. Because when you help one person, we become like the five people that we spend the most time with. And so that is beautiful. So someone who is going through the hardest of hard times can pick up your book, figure out like what you said about the college 15, I just put in 15. Instead of
Mhm.
targeting, instead of having, if you're going to drive across the country, having a target of where you're going to end up, you're just in a river and you're going wherever the world takes you. And then one day you wake
Mhm.
up and it might be too late to
Mhm.
do what you're talking about here. So, in advance of that, check out the book. So, the first one is purpose. That's the
Mhm.
first thing you have to figure out. And your book walks you through that.
Mhm.
Basically, here's how we go through it and all that stuff. How has your purpose guided your decisions?
Purpose guides my decisions because what it does is it is absolutely the guide. It keeps me like, okay, this is the Constitution. All right, this is the framework in which you're going to do this. All right, it actually guides what I'm going to say to people. It actually it controls, it does control my behaviors in every single way, shape, or form. My number one purpose is to be there for my kids and to be there for my grandkids. That's my number one purpose on this planet. So I'm 54 years old. What's the best way to make sure that we're here for a long time so I can annoy my kids? Okay. And annoy them to the point to where they do not have to, because I really do like annoying my kids, but I want to annoy them to the point. So if I annoy them too much, they have to select my nursing home. So I don't want them doing that. Okay. So now how am I going to do this? So my purpose now is, you know what? I'm going to work out. I'm going to stay in great health. I'm 54 years old. I do CrossFit. I play hockey. I walk at least 5 miles a day. Right. And I mean, I'll take a break after this interview. I'll probably get up and I'll walk. I walk. I live on the west side of Asheville. I love walking through West Asheville and seeing people in West Asheville. It's a blast. So I'll just walk, get up early in the morning and do my CrossFit. I exercise. I eat semi okay. I have a massive sweet tooth, so if you put lemon meringue pie in front of me, I just gonna have to eat it. There's nothing I can do. But those are things that I do. As far as other things, when it comes to purpose, I want to make sure that I leave something behind for them as well. So what does that mean? That controls my financial decisions. That controls what I do. I also want to be there to help them and advise them. And so I want to make sure I'm an upstanding citizen and things like that. So that's how your decision. So purpose really does, if you are dedicated to your purpose, it does have a lot of control on your behavior.
It sounds like it's the guardrails.
It is. Mhm.
And how many of us need guardrails? We like you said earlier, we run on autopilot so often. And guys, you don't have to. There are options. You do
Mhm.
not have to run on autopilot. Okay, so we got a pretty good idea on purpose. Planning.
Mhm.
Why is that so important?
Plan is important because you need to know where you're going. I love what you said before about driving cross country. All right. Now you can do two things. I can get to San Diego by driving through I'm in North Carolina right now. I can go all the way up to Toronto and go straight across and come back down. It's a dumb drive. All right, but I can get there eventually. Okay. Or if I want to take the quickest route right now, I know I hit Interstate 40, go on Interstate 40 forever. Okay. And then, once Interstate 40 turns to 15, guess what? I'm right there. It'll literally take me 3 days. You know why I know it? Because I've done it. Okay. But that's what you have to do. You have to have a plan. Now, with that being said, Google Maps is the greatest example in the world. Google Maps can tell you as you're driving, it'll tell you there is a better route available.
Mhm.
And it gives you like 5 seconds. It doesn't give you that long to press that better route, right? And if it doesn't, then you're just pretty much, you got to go and search for that route again, right? I hate that. So it's like better route available. You press that button, right? Accept, right? The thing is like even in your plan, you may say, I'm going to take 40 to 15 and go straight to San Diego. But sometimes there's construction or something like that blocks your path. Look for that better route. You do that through asking, talking to people, mentoring, having a mentor, doing things like that. Always communicate your plans with someone you trust. Do not communicate your plan with everybody. Communicate your plan with someone you trust, someone who really wants you to get there, somebody who may be getting there with you. There's a song by a Canadian artist. He's passed away. He was a fantastic artist. The group is called Jack Soul. and it's called Lonesome Highway. And it talks about the trip that he took with him and his partner. And they went down this lonesome highway, and he says, and there's no more lonesome highway because he's got a travel partner. It's the best thing in the world to have is that travel partner is to make sure you do that. But again, like I said, if you hear better route available, and you know that that's probably the better way to do it, and it's going to cut time off of you getting there, press it. Don't be so dedicated. Don't end up like, don't end up like Blockbuster. Blockbuster had a great plan until it wasn't, and that's what you don't want to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of examples, Blockbuster, Kodak, all of them. And there were signs were all over and they just chose to ignore them. And so do we, guys. We do that to ourselves. We can be our own worst enemy, or we can be our best ally. And it depends on you and the path that you want to take. So passion. How do you keep it alive when things do feel heavy?
You really have to be dedicated to your purpose. You don't ever, when people say, I'm with this person because they make you happy, or I'm doing this because I'm happy. Happy is not a good word sometimes. You want to make sure joy is constant. Okay. Happy is fleeting. Okay. Right now, I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. I am a huge Buffalo Bills fan. Okay. They bring me joy. Okay. However, I'm 54 years old and Trunnis Goggins has never been alive during a championship season of the Buffalo Bills. Never. Okay. So that does not make me happy. All right. At all. And I'm going to tell you a couple, I don't know when this is going to film, but the for opening day of the NFL season, I was not happy when it was 33-19 and I turned it off. And then I really didn't get happy. So when I woke up in the next morning and found out that they won the game after I turned it off. So
Oh no.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, but still, but again, it's happiness and joy. You want to make sure that you realize your purpose brings you joy, not necessarily happiness. When you find that joy, that's going to bring your passion. So when it does get hairy, you realize that, you know what, it still brings me joy.
Wow. Okay. And the ever loving, you got to have it to get through this world, persistence. Why is that such an important factor?
Persistence is important because, you're going to have things that happen to you in life. You are absolutely going to have things that happen to you in life. That's just the way it is. You're going to have external factors that there's nothing that you can do about it. Again, going right back to the drive, you're driving and there's a traffic jam. Okay. That is something, it stopped your progress. It had nothing to do with you. It was probably some idiot that's up the road that decided to rubberneck, and so now everybody else is rubbernecking, looking at the same thing. Or in my case, it's somebody who's driving in the fast lane and driving the same speed. It's horrible. I just hate that. But it messes up traffic. The thing, you have to be persistent. Things are going to happen to you. You may get sick. You know, the economy may change. There are going to be things in life. There are obstacles in life. Sometimes the obstacles are outside. Sometimes the obstacles are things that we put in. Maybe it's our own procrastination. Maybe it's our own forgetfulness. We didn't write something down, and something happens, and then we have to overcome that. So persistence is important. Now the thing is if you don't have passion, you're not going to be persistent. I always use the thing about golf and hockey. I love playing hockey, always have, and it could be. I love playing outdoors. I like playing here in Asheville. We play roller hockey outdoors. It could be 95 degrees and I'll be outside playing hockey, like sweating, like literally one time I played and I lost 3 pounds just playing the game in like 15 minutes. And then, but if someone says, "Hey, it's 95 degrees, let's go play golf," no,
No.
I'm not doing that. And I'm just not, because I don't have that same level of passion. So I'm not going to persist in the elements as much as I would in the other. So you need to have that passion, because if you don't have that passion, you're not going to have the persistence. You're gonna quit whenever you feel like it. It's like one thing in the military. The one thing in the military they always measure someone's motivation. If that person's not motivated, there's 9 times out of 10 that person's probably not going to be doing a particular um, job. Mhm.
Right, right. It is everything, and it's something that it's internal. It's not external. I mean, you can listen to all the motivational videos you want to, but it's an internal game. So what happens when someone implements all four of the P's in their lives?
They implement all four of the P's, they're going to start seeing progress. And that's another P. That's the fifth P. I should write another book with that. But no, they're going to see progress. They're going to see their goals being met. They really are. They're going to see their goals, and they're going to see how intentional living is so beneficial. And that's so important. Like, I really, really meant to do this. I meant to be at this point at this time, and we see it happening. You see it. You see persistence quite a bit. You see the process. There's a lot of football teams and stuff like that talk about trust the process. And even though, as long as they're watching that, the progressions, they just, it's just a great thing. So make sure you are, if you follow those 4 P's, you will see progress for sure.
All right. So what have I not asked you that I should have?
You know what? I think that you are a fantastic. You really are. You're a fantastic podcast host, and with my podcast, I wish I could do that. I mean, you're so organized. It's great. I actually feel a little like, man, I need to get on my game a little bit. No, I think you asked me everything that you should in this, and I absolutely appreciate discussing the book.
Oh gosh, it's a pleasure, and I know that it is going to help our listeners. And guys, it'll help you a ton more if you actually buy the book and read the book. I'm just saying, you got a really good overview and you got baby steps right from this podcast. And if you will implement just what you heard on this podcast, it will matter. It will change your life and your trajectory. If it's going this way, it could just change it. And the results from that are huge. Buy the book and dive in, and you will do a whole lot better. Thank you so much for your time and for
Thank
dropping
you.
all that wonderful wisdom on us, Mr. Goggins. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being on the program.